My name is Imogen. I am 62 years old, and I want to share the story of the moment that altered the course of my life forever. It all began 10 years ago when Brody, my husband, passed away from lung cancer, a result of the 20 cigarettes he smoked daily. He never talked about it openly, but I knew he smoked to soothe the anxiety he kept hidden behind his calm demeanor. These days, I live alone on the fourth floor of an aging apartment block. My world has narrowed to the quiet walls of my home and occasional phone calls from my children, son who lives in Europe for work, and my daughter who lives just 30 minutes away but only visits on rare occasions. The days drag on, marked by the ticking of the wall clock and the sight of people's lives unfolding through my window. Sometimes I wonder if anyone sees the loneliness that clings to me like stale smoke, persistent, lingering, and invisible. One day my daughter called with a tone that immediately made me sit up. She was going on a ski trip with her friends for a week and didn't know who to leave Coco with. Her dog. Coco was a large, fluffy creature with an abundance of hair that had a knack for getting everywhere. My daughter knew I had never been particularly fond of animals, especially not ones that shed and risked turning my orderly home into chaos. Still, I sensed her desperation, and maybe I didn't want to seem cold, so I agreed. She promised it would only be for a week. She even called every evening to check in, her voice full of gratitude and concern. Gradually, I allowed myself to believe it might not be so bad. On the second day, Coco was with me. I returned from the market to a disaster. The couch cushions were torn open, and tufts of stuffing were strewn all over the living room like a blizzard had passed through. I was furious, but after taking a few deep breaths and remembering she was just a dog, I calmed myself. The next evening, while preparing lentil soup for dinner, I heard a sudden crash from the living room. My heart raced as I rushed in. The tall glass cabinet, Brody's cabinet, was shattered. Inside had been his cherished belongings, his favorite walking hat, his reading glasses, and the faded concert t-shirt we'd bought on our honeymoon. Now, they lay scattered across the floor. I picked up the glasses, and for a fleeting second, I could smell him, Brody, like he had just been there. And then the tears came. They poured out of me like a dam had broken. Years of grief I had folded neatly away, finally demanding to be seen. I wept into the silence, letting everything I had buried rise to the surface. Coco came close and lay down beside me. She rested her head gently on my thigh and looked up with big, knowing eyes. It's not a bark, not a whimper, just presence. A soft warmth settled in my chest, and for the first time in years, I felt understood. From that moment, things changed. I began asking my daughter if Coco could stay during the weekdays while she worked. Eventually, Coco stayed permanently. She became part of my routine, my unexpected companion. We took morning walks together. I spoke to her about my dreams, my regrets, even my shopping list. Her quiet presence filled the silence I had grown used to, and suddenly, life didn't feel quite so empty. One chilly evening, a few months later, I noticed I was out of eggs. Normally, I had enough to last through the week, but that evening I needed them urgently, or so it felt. So I bundled up and made my way to the small mini-market a few blocks down, Coco faithfully trotting alongside me. The store was nearly empty when I arrived. I grabbed the eggs and paid quickly. The cashier offered a polite smile as he locked the doors behind me. It was nearly closing time. Outside, the air felt sharp. I tugged my coat tighter around me. That's when I noticed them. 3 men, all wearing dark hats, loitered near the corner of the street. Something about them sent a chill up my spine. I didn't want to panic, so I turned down another street, walking briskly, hoping to lose them. But I heard their footsteps pick up, fast, urgent. I turned around, heart pounding. They were following me. I picked up my pace, my thoughts racing. Every alley I passed felt darker than the last. I crossed the street, pretending I wasn't frightened, but they sped up too. Then I heard it running. They were coming. I turned a corner and felt my legs falter. There was no one around, no open shots, just shadows. My breath caught in my throat. Coco barked, sensing something was wrong. The men came into view and didn't hesitate. One of them stepped forward aggressively, his voice sharp and loud. "Drop the purse. Now." The others echoed him. "We're not joking." On the ground, now. Fear gripped me like a vice. I couldn't move. My body refused. Coco growled, her stance shifting protectively. The leader stepped closer, raising his voice. I said, "Drop it." They immediately demanded my purse, shouting for me to drop it on the ground. Fear paralyzed me, and I couldn't even move. When I heard Coco growling, sensing my fear, one of the men pulled out a knife and stepped toward me with menace in his eyes. But Coco, who had always been gentle and calm, almost regal in her quiet way, sprang into action without a second's hesitation. She lunged at the man's arm, teeth bared, trying to protect me. I heard a sharp cry. She had bitten him. But in the confusion, the man with the knife swung at her violently, landing blow after blow behind her neck. The moment I saw her collapse to the pavement, her fur soaked in blood, my heart shattered. It was a blow deeper than anything I'd felt in years. The three attackers ran off, leaving my purse behind. But I was frozen. My heart thudded so hard, it felt like it might tear through my chest. I stood there, unable to breathe, staring at Coco lying still, too still. I dropped to my knees beside her, tears spilling down uncontrollably. "Help, someone, please help." I cried out, my voice cracking with despair. But the street offered nothing back. It was deserted. I tried to stumble back toward the mini-market, hoping to find someone, anyone, but in my panic, I tripped. Maybe it was a crack in the sidewalk, or maybe just my failing balance. I twisted my ankle and fell hard, my head hitting the cement with a sickening thud. And then darkness. It wasn't sleep, it wasn't pain. It was something else, entirely. My body felt like it no longer belonged to me. I felt weightless, floating. A strange lightness overtook me, as though I was suspended between two worlds. And suddenly, I was soaring, effortlessly, as though my spirit had been freed from gravity itself. It was Hader T. N of Tweed, from gravity itself. Ahead of me opened a soft, golden light. It pulsed gently, inviting. Without thought, I drifted toward it. In the distance, a wide staircase stretched upward, spiraling into the sky. I had no feet, no weight to carry. But I was climbing, drawn upward as though the stairs were part of me. Then I saw him, a luminous being with wide, feathered wings, pure white, glowing, graceful. He wasn't terrifying, though. His face radiated calm and a kindness I couldn't describe. The moment I looked into his eyes, I felt safe. "Am I dead?" I asked, unsure if the words were even mine. The angel smiled, but didn't answer directly. "That's it's not for me to say," he said gently, "but there is someone who might help you understand." We ascended the staircase together, side by side, and with each step the air grew lighter, sweeter. As we climbed, the space around us shifted, and suddenly the staircase opened up into a breathtaking vista. He ascended to Bolsiu. The first place we reached was unlike anything I had seen before. A vast playground glowing with color. Children ran in every direction, laughing and playing with joy that felt untouched by sadness. The sky shimmered above them like an endless painting. I watched, captivated, then turned to the angel beside me. "Where are their mothers?" I asked. He looked at me with such softness that it made my throat tighten. "This is the paradise of children," he said. These are the little ones whose lives ended too soon, whether by illness, war, or the mistakes of adults. Here they are safe. They are whole. His words pierced something in me, but I also felt that those children were embraced by a love more complete than anything I had known. We moved on, climbing higher. Now we reached a peaceful park. Trees swayed in a light breeze. Birds sang in harmony. Elderly men and women sat on benches or strolled slowly, some reading, some chatting over board games. There was laughter, quiet joy, and a calm that settled into the bones. "What is this place?" I asked. "This is where the elderly come to rest after lives full of trials and wisdom," the angel replied. "Here, they find connection. Here, no one is forgotten." We walked through the park, and I noticed people from every walk of life, different skin tones, accents, clothes, and customs. Some were dancing, others painted or played music. I understood then, paradise wasn't a single place. It was many places, shaped by the hearts and dreams of those who arrived. With each step upward, my heart opened more. I felt their serenity, their joy. It shone from them like sunlight. Every soul I passed seemed to share a silent understanding with me. This was peace, true, eternal peace. It struck me then that all the suffering I'd seen, all the pain I'd felt, it had always been leading somewhere. Here, to this, a place where none of it was wasted, where every scar had become light. Time no longer meant anything. I didn't wonder how long I'd been gone. I was simply present, whole, empty of fear. And then he appeared. He appeared. A figure so radiant it nearly overwhelmed me. Not with brilliance, but with love. A love that I had never known, yet somehow always remembered. He came closer, and I knew instantly it was him, Jesus. There was no need for words. His eyes saw me fully. He knew every mistake, every regret, every ache in my soul. And yet, all I felt was mercy. In that instant, I understood. It was paradise. And it was the place awaiting all those who had lived with an open heart, hopeful to find peace. I felt a strange mix of embarrassment and awe standing before him. My heart thudded with uncertainty. I wasn't sure whether I belonged there, whether I had done something wrong or perhaps something right. But he, radiant and calm, offered no judgment. Without hesitation, he extended his hand toward me. As his hand reached mine, a wave of calm, unlike anything I had ever known, swept over me. It wasn't just comfort, it was a silence that settled deep inside my soul. A voice, not quite spoken, but felt like wind through trees or sunlight on skin, murmured peace, grounding me completely. "It is not your time yet," he said gently, his eyes filled with a warmth that made me feel seen in a way I never had before. "You are here because your life has not been easy. You've walked through storms, grief, solitude, pain, and through it all, you began a journey, not just of survival, but of spirit. You turned inward, not toward religion, but toward awareness." He paused, and the air between us seemed to glow with understanding. "After the loss of Brody, your soul began to fade," he continued. "You carried your sorrow quietly, too quietly, but we heard it. We saw the wear on your spirit, and so help was sent." I stood there, frozen, listening, absorbing, wondering if I truly deserved this moment. "We sent you a spirit," he said, "a companion in the form of an animal. This spirit came not only to ease your loneliness, but to remind you of who you are. Many people are sent such messengers, but few recognize them. Fewer still embrace them. You did both." Something inside me stirred. I realized who he meant. Coco. He smiled softly, sensing my realization before I even spoke. "You saw her, not just as a dog, but as a soul. You made room for her, even when she tested your patience. You forgave her when she broke things, when she barked too loudly, when she disrupted your solitude. You loved her in ways that revealed your deepest self. I felt a rush of emotion. Until that moment, I hadn't fully understood what Coco had meant to me. She had come into my life so unexpectedly, my daughter needing someone to watch her dog for a few days, and stayed. With every passing day, she'd carved a space in my routine, in my thoughts and in my heart. My voice cracked as I whispered, "She saved me." "You saved each other," he replied gently. "That bond was sacred, and she fulfilled her purpose. But I know you're wondering about her now." Suddenly, the memory returned. The image of Coco's body on the pavement, still and bloodied. It hit me like a wave, and my throat tightened. "How is she?" I asked, my words trembling. The figure before me looked at me with infinite compassion. Spirits are not meant to remain forever. They come with a mission. They love purely, and then they return. Coco completed her mission. She led you back to your own light. But she has not vanished. What you shared cannot be undone by death. His words soothed me and tore at me all at once. The idea that Coco was more than a pet, that she was a spiritual companion, filled me with awe and sorrow. "You will never forget her," he continued, "and that is by design. Love is not meant to be forgotten. Every memory you hold of her, every walk, every shared silence, every glance, those are eternal. She helped shape you into the woman standing before me now." Tears welled in my eyes, but they no longer burned. I felt them like rain on thirsty soil. "She changed everything," I said quietly. He nodded. "Yes, and that change, that transformation, that's why you were shown this place. You needed to see what awaits you, not because you've earned it through perfection, but because you've lived with an open heart." My curiosity stirred again. I wanted to ask more, to understand this place, to explore it. But before I could speak, he lifted a hand and smiled in a way that seemed to answer everything without a single word. "Your time to return is near," he said. "But know this, what you've seen is a promise. It is what lies ahead. You have already begun to build your place here." He looked toward the horizon, and I followed his gaze. There, nestled in rolling green hills, was a small wooden house. It was bathed in golden light, with a stone path leading to the porch and a garden blooming with wild flowers. 2 chairs sat side by side beneath an open window. I felt something stir deep inside me. "That place," I whispered. "It looks so familiar." He smiled. "It should. It was shaped by you, your dreams, your hopes, your quietest wishes. Every detail reflects who you are and what you've longed for. No soul arrives here to find something foreign. This is home." The air shimmered with stillness. I took a step closer, wanting to imprint the image in my mind forever. He turned back to me and said, "Paradise is not distant. It lives in the heart first. When you choose kindness, when you forgive, when you open yourself to love, that is when it begins. And that is what you've already done." I felt a strange lightness again, not the emptiness of grief, but the fullness of love. And then, as if he knew I needed one last comfort, he spoke again. "Do not be afraid. One day you will return here, and when you do, you will find all your loved ones waiting. And Coco, she will be there too, wagging her tail, eyes bright, ready to walk beside you forever. She will always be by your side." Those were his final words, an echo of peace that wrapped around me like a soft cloak. As his figure slowly dissolved into the brilliant light, I felt a warm, gentle energy enveloping me, easing me downward. Something was calling me back to the life I had temporarily left behind. Darkness folded in around me, but the warmth of that place lingered in my soul. The memory of the little house on the hill, the promise of an eternal bond, and the overwhelming love I had witnessed stayed with me like a lantern in the night. unshakable, glowing, quietly burning. This is all I can recall with clarity. These are the moments that remain etched within me like a sacred inscription. I wish I could remember more. Maybe the details I've forgotten could have brought comfort to others searching for hope. But what I did experience, I'm certain, was guided by something real, a divine connection sparked by the bond I shared with my dog, Coco. In the final years of my life, Coco had been so much more than a pet. She was my constant companion, my silent anchor, my quiet strength. And now, understanding everything fully, it feels like a whole new world has opened before me. I realize now that even our four-legged friends have a purpose in our lives. Each connection, no matter how brief or unexpected, carries weight. It is a thread, a fine, invisible string that connects us to something greater, something eternal. Nothing is random. Every meeting, every shared glance, every creature that crosses our path holds a message. We may not always recognize it in the moment, distracted as we are by the chaos of daily life. But sometimes, even an ordinary encounter, a dog that greets you in the street, a cat that lingers on your porch, a bird that sings too long in the morning, is a gentle nudge from the universe. So often we are buried in our own worries. We carry anxieties that weigh us down, that ultimately shrink when measured against what truly matters. But our hearts, they never stop speaking. They whisper to us constantly, pointing toward what is real: love, connection, simplicity, peace. Every bond we form, every act of care, every silent companionship carries meaning. And when those connections are broken by distance or death, the pain we feel is a sign, not of weakness, but of depth. It means our hearts have known how to love, and our souls are open to growth. Please, hold close what I've shared. If you've ever known the love of a loyal animal, a being who sat with you in silence, forgave your moods, and reminded you to notice the wind and the sun, cherish that gift. Don't grieve their loss with despair. Mourn with gratitude. Let the pain be proof that your soul is open and ready to walk in the light. Because I now believe, with every fiber of my being, that those who love deeply, who give without needing anything in return, already carry the seeds of faith. And one day they will find themselves in a paradise where love never dies, where all our truest bonds are waiting to be reunited. To those who are listening to this story, I must share one truth that still breaks my heart. Coco didn't survive. The sacrifice she made to protect me cost her life. I awoke in a hospital bed days later, disoriented and aching. The owners of the market, bless them, had seen the attack from a distance and called for help. I spent a month recovering, nursing a fractured ankle, a concussion, and a heart that felt cracked wide open. But in the long, quiet nights of that hospital room, I felt something stir in me, a light, a shift. Coco's love hadn't disappeared, it had simply moved inside me. Coming home was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The house felt hollow, her absence echoed in every room. For weeks, I couldn't bring myself to move her things. The leash, her bowl, the blanket she loved, all stayed just as she left them. But life has a way of sending us what we need, even when we resist it. At the local animal shelter, I met a small dog named Millie. She had soft brown eyes and a quiet gentleness. Something in her reminded me of Coco, not in looks but in presence. That same calming energy, that quiet strength. I didn't plan to adopt her. I didn't think I could open my heart again. But the moment she rested her head on my knee, I knew I couldn't go back to being alone. That was 5 years ago. Since then, Millie has been by my side every day. She's become my new guide, my comfort, my teacher. Through her, I relearned the joy of small things: a walk at dusk, a shared nap, a look that says you're not alone. I am certain that one day I will see Coco again. Athene, I believe it now with a clarity I never had before. Hasey will be there, along with Brody and all the souls I've loved, in that glowing meadow beside that little house. Until then, I live each day with gratitude, grateful for the lessons, the love, and the bond that never truly ended. When night falls and I close my eyes, I feel her again. In Coco, here's spirit, her warmth. I breathe deeply, and every breath becomes a prayer of thanks. Maybe that's what paradise really is. Not a place, but a way of loving that never dies. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you've also known the quiet love of an animal who changed your life, I would love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments and share this video with anyone so that the message reaches more people's hearts.